Welcome back, fifth graders. Happy Wednesday. I hope that you were able to enjoy our lesson on Monday, learning more about civic responsibilities and everything that goes with that, and how citizens and the government can work together to be great partners for success, and how we can hold each other accountable for different things. So, today we're learning more about the Bill of Rights. So, this all fits under our government unit because the Bill of Rights, civic responsibility, citizenship are all things that fall under our Constitution. And our Constitution is ultimately what decides what our government looks like. So, today we'll be looking more at the Bill of Rights. So, the first 10 amendments to the Constitution is called the Bill of Rights. This is what really our country and nation look at when it comes to what rights citizens have and how the government has to protect those rights because of the Constitution. So, we'll be looking at the first 5 amendments under the Bill of Rights. So, the first 10 amendments in the Constitution are called the Bill of Rights. This is something important to remember because it will be brought up again and again. And so whenever anyone says the Bill of Rights, it's the first 10 amendments. So on your own, watch the overview. It's a quick 3-minute video from TED Ed that explains our Bill of Rights. It's just really brief. It's like another helpful resource just in case my explanation is kind of confusing. But check it out and then on your own, and then I'm going to continue on. So the first amendment is freedom of religion, speech, press, and gathering together. That's a lot. The First Amendment packs a punch, all right? So it's saying that we have, the citizens of the United States, have the freedom of religion. We can choose to worship however we please, whatever religion we want. That means Susie could be Christian while Johnny could be Jewish, or Annie could be Buddhist while Courtney is Hindu or Muslim, or there's just so many different kinds. But because of this amendment, we have the right to choose if we have a religion or what religion we choose. In other countries, they don't have this freedom. Some countries, if you're not what the country's religion is, then you're persecuted. So in some countries, it's illegal to be Christian. So that means that if they find out that you read the Christian Bible, or you anything to do with that, you run a church or anything, then you're persecuted for that. And in other countries, it's illegal to be different religions. So in the United States, one of our amendments says that we have the freedom of religion. We also have the freedom of speech and press. These two kind of go together. And like I said before, this is saying that we have the freedom to speak out against things. We have the freedom to say our opinions and what we feel. In some countries, it's illegal to express your opinion if it doesn't match what the government says. So speech and press kind of go together because the press have the right to, report what is actually happening, or report different events, and the government protects them. There are still rules and laws that go with speech and press, such things as libel, which means that you can't lie, or that knowing that you said something to a reporter or you put something out into the public to view and you know it was untruthful, it's libel. But again, this is our freedom of speech and freedom of press are protected under our First Amendment. And lastly, gathering together. So our right to assemble, which could go for religion, could go for really anything. You have the right to gather together. So on your own slides, you'll always have a slide right after each amendment. And below, I would like you to just put a picture in that you feel best represents this amendment to you. So maybe if I were doing this, I would put in a picture of a newspaper because it represents the freedom of the press. Or maybe I'd put in the picture of a church because it represents the freedom of religion. So you insert a picture here below that you feel represents this amendment. It can be whatever interpretation you want, just make sure it's school appropriate. Our second amendment is the right to keep and carry weapons. So this amendment, there's a lot of controversy about this amendment. I'm not going to tell you what you should or shouldn't think. That's up to you and your parents. But this means that saying the right to keep and carry weapons was originally created to help with making sure that the government didn't get too strong, and then the citizens, like the farmers and the people, had something to help protect themselves from the government. And so nowadays, what this amendment really means is that we have the right to carry weapons with us. Sometimes we'll see people with a gun on their hip or a knife or something, and they have to have special permits to carry those weapons. So this is a law that gives us that freedom, but there's also checks and balances with these freedoms. So again, here's another slide. Allows you to put a picture in that best represents us. Remember, keep it school appropriate. Third, protects people from having the military stay in their homes. Now this seems really random, but this was during the time that the Constitution was created. This was really important because when there were wars going on at the time, military were allowed to just come and stay in people's houses. This is saying that now we don't have to let the military stay in our house just because there's something going on. So this is kind of an older one, but it still protects us today. Again, here's a slide. Put in a picture that you feel represents this amendment. Number 4, protects people from being searched and having things taken from them. So what this is saying is that, let's say your car was stopped, like you were pulled over by the police. The police can't search your car unless they have a warrant. Or let's say a police officer comes to your house and they say, we're trying to find something. You're being investigated for a crime. They cannot come into your house to search for something unless they have a warrant from a court, from a judge, signing off on them that there is evidence or something saying that you might be related to this crime. So again, law enforcement is not allowed to search your home, your car, or any of your belongings without a warrant. So put a picture here of what that means to you. And lastly, the one we'll talk about today is the Fifth Amendment, and this gives citizens the right to due process. Due process. What exactly does due process mean? That's a great question. Thank you for asking. I'll answer it right now. Due process guarantees that every person accused of a crime is treated fairly. So you should have your social studies notebook out. Remember, whenever we see a yellow word highlighted, we're going to write it down, start a new page and a new date, and write down what is the Bill of Rights, and put down due process and write down the definition here. You can pause it if you need to. You each also have your own slides with this as well. So due process guarantees that every person accused of a crime is treated fairly. So that means that no matter what the crime is, no matter where you are, the government should protect us, saying that due process guarantees that every person accused of a crime is treated fairly. So if someone is caught robbing a store in California and they're caught robbing a store in Michigan, the Bill of Rights, our Fifth Amendment, guarantees that the person in California and the person in Michigan is they're treated fairly for that crime, and that they are taken through the court system fairly based on that crime. So due process guarantees that every person accused of a crime is treated fairly. That means you have the right to a lawyer, you have the right to a fair and speedy trial. These are more amendments that we'll talk about as we continue on. But this is a very important amendment because if someone isn't treated fairly just because of their race, because of their gender, because of maybe they're really poor or they're really rich, and they're treated differently for all these different things, that means that our court system and justice isn't being fair, isn't being equitable, isn't treating everybody fairly. So this is a really important amendment that it guarantees every person accused of a crime that they are treated fairly. So that's number 5. So put a picture below of what you think represents this amendment. So people accused of crimes have the right to a fair and speedy trial. Those who are judged to be guilty receive a fair and appropriate punishment, and they have the right to, the accused is considered innocent until proven guilty. So that means that just because someone is arrested, that means they have the right to be considered innocent until the jury or the judge deems them guilty. A right to a fair and speedy trial means that, again, that the trial is fair, that the jury is fair, that the judge is fair, that they have rights and access to a lawyer, that if they're viewed to be guilty or they're judged guilty, that they receive a fair and appropriate punishment. So that means that if if it's a small crime, they're not going to be given life in prison, that the punishment fits the crime. So all of these things are very important because they protect the people within our nation. And so some might think, well, if you just don't commit a crime, it doesn't matter if we have all these things. Well, people are human. I mean, when we're in class sometimes, you could be the best student the whole year, but you're going to have a bad day sometimes and you're going to talk when the teacher's talking, or you're going to pass your friend a note, or maybe you're going to make fun of someone even though you wouldn't normally do that. We're human. We make human mistakes. So we should have equal access, and it's our right to be treated fairly when we make mistakes. So this is important to remember as you get older and you hear a lot about cases and criminal cases and anything going on with the court. Just remember that this is one of our Fifth Amendments. So due process protects people from the government. The framers of the Constitution wanted to add this in because they themselves did not have protection from the British government. So remember, our Constitution was created after people left England. They no longer wanted to be ruled under England. They wanted to be their own colonies in the United States. But they realized that just because they knew they wanted this doesn't mean that people 200 years from now would also know that we need to be protected by the government. So due process protects people from the government because, again, we're human. People get too much power. They begin to do things that maybe aren't right. And so we have these amendments and rules to protect everybody under our nation. So this is a think and share. Why is it important that we have an amendment that protects people from the government? Think about everything I've said so far. Maybe do some research on your own. Ask a parent. Ask an older relative why it's important that we are protected from the government. This is a fun little video that talks more about due process. Lastly, watch over the Bill of Rights video again or rewatch this video just so you can go a little bit slower. You can pause anytime you want, or you just want another brief overview. Here's a really fun game. It's called Do I Have a Right? You get to be a lawyer or whatever you choose in the game. You just click on the link and you play it on your computer. It's just a great way to practice everything that we're learning right now. Lastly, here's where you summarize your learning. So there are 4 questions. Some of them are wrap-ups from other lessons we've done. So what is the importance of the United States Constitution? We did this last week. What are the 3 branches of government? I think we did this 2 weeks ago. The first 10 amendments to the Constitution are called. This is in the beginning of this video and slideshow. And what does due process mean? So look back over your slides, rewatch the video, and just figure out what does due process mean. So you are to finish all of this, answer everything in this slideshow, and then turn it into your Google Classroom. I hope that you were all able to learn something from this lesson and learn more about our country, our Bill of Rights, our amendments, and how we have these rights and amendments to protect us from the government. All right, 5th graders,